Hey, I'm Shane Baldacchino, wannabe MotoGP racer, but commonly known as a solution architect. And look, we are live here at Sydney Summit, streaming on Twitch. And today I'm joined here by Nikki Klein.
Hi everyone, we are throwing shirts.
And Eileen, and yes, we are live at Sydney Summit. So crowd, gather around, we've got swag here.
So we totally want to talk to you because not only do you get to attend this amazing session with these two amazing folks, but there is also swag giveaways.
Let's see how far
We've got lots of t-shirts and merch, so for folks that are around, not just watching us at home, come on by.
Things.
And we like throwing things because there is nothing like being a live speaker and having stuff go throwing back and forth at you.
All right.
All right, awesome.
That done. Cool. All right, look, now, when I saw the title of this session, AI and Twitch, it's a little bit foreign to me, given my, I guess, somewhat traditional, infra code, IoT background.
Yep.
Now, there is a ton of comments happening on the Twitch feed at the moment. But I guess, what are we doing with these? How are we deriving operational intelligence?
Yep.
And I think that's really what this session, in a nutshell, is about.
Absolutely.
So look, Visalytics, your company, uses knowledge, graph technology with ML, AI to power its solutions.
Yeah.
How do you see this approach augmenting and enhancing the Twitch experience?
Oh, absolutely. And this is a really awesome question because it's amazing to see so much engagement on Twitch kind of going back and forth, but you want to be able to take some of that and leverage it. So a lot of what we do relates to kind of building a graph contextually to understand what's happening in time and space. A lot of the work that we do relates to cities, but in terms of Twitch conversations, and I know this is something, Nikki, that you've seen quite a lot, we could think about, well, what happens if we wanted to say, I want to mine sentiment. I want to understand what's happening with those users, where are they coming from, what are they most passionate about?
How are they related to each other?
How are they related to each other? Because I know that you're someone who she is absolutely amazing. So if you don't know Nikki, you absolutely...
This is supposed to be a session about you.
I know, but sharing is caring, and building community is all really about saying, understand the amazing leaders in this community. She did something so cool yesterday.
Let's talk about it.
At Dev Night, all right? So here she's got 20-minute session, and she says, I need a time clock because I am going to do live coding. I'm going to actually sit here, first time-ish with Python, and build something.
Is this like a magic trick when you're like in a straitjacket, locked in a box?
Pretty much.
Time me. Ready, go!
But she did it. She nailed it. And that's really cool for that opportunity to kind of learn out loud. And certainly something just in terms of building community is understanding there are amazing leaders who are saying, yeah, we're going to figure this out together. Here's how we're going to do it. And I want to make sure it's okay to learn, to figure out, okay, that didn't work, throw it out, here's what I'm going to do, and I can fail quickly and I can keep trying.
There's nothing better than pair programming with my Twitch audience. You know I love it, and I love you guys for always helping me out every time I'm coding. Last night was a special opportunity where I got to do it in front of an actual live audience, and the audience was just as engaging.
Were they helping you out last night?
It was amazing. They were all helping me out, correcting me on my my terrible Python syntax.
But that's what this is all about, right? Building and discovering and thinking about what that we can get in terms of opportunities for trying things out, right?
So I want to go back for a second because some of us might not understand what a graph database is.
Yeah,
and you were talking about like the power of it and what it can do in a Twitch chat. Let's take a step back and say, what is it first? And then let's go deeper into how can we contextualize this in sentiment, relationships, understanding who is who inside a chat.
I think what I'd like to know is, how does it differ from a normal relational database? I'm going to be doing my select star from all and bring down thousands and millions of records. Probably shouldn't be doing that to begin with here.
Yep. So first off, I want to give kudos to previous speakers in previous sessions. Gabe Halambe as well as Matt Fitzgerald. Were here, they're technical evangelists. We were just talking all about graphs, and at the end of the session, we said, you know what, there is so much more that we can talk about and do. So first and foremost, go back to Matt's Twitch session. He is a braver man than me in that he had code up and kind of walking everybody through. But in terms of what's a graph, it's a way to kind of discover knowledge, right? So the way that we came to graphs was about 10 years ago doing semantic news search, where we wanted to understand during the US financial crisis kind of what's happening. The challenge at the time, super slow. It took us about 4 days to get stuff loaded up, right?
And then didn't you say the data also went away after a certain amount of time?
Oh yeah, so I was bounded to, you have 90 days of content, it's going to show up 4 days late, here's how it's going to have to age out because we can't afford to store it, we can only have so many triples and stuff. Yes, but today, it's not. And you have solutions like Neptune that make it easy to kind of try and learn out loud and say, well, what happens if I actually want to connect a lot of different data, I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking for, and help me understand how I can kind of traverse and go through that. That's what's really important. And that's where when you think about what's the point of this talk, well, if I want to understand sentiment that's happening in these Twitch conversations, can I grab it all and think about not only what are the comments made, who's made them, where are they coming through, where are we starting to see those trends and those ideas?
So I guess Neptune is, it's ideal for highly connected data sets. So, typically, I think someone explained it to me once, if you're trying to do a select statement with more than 3 joins, use a graph database.
Well, yeah, so the challenge with some folks is like, but when I want to connect all these things, it's just really, really onerous and a huge burden to do so.
Totally.
What if I could turn around and say, well, I'm actually not constrained that way? And the way that I like to explain it when we work with our customers is think about it that you can move across time and space and you can look at different contexts. So what Nikki might care about isn't necessarily what Shane would care about, but there are some overlays, but I'm not bounded to say I have to make the world exist with only the things that Nikki cares about, though she might like that. But I can actually bring all of them together, and I can start to discover relationships, and that's what's really powerful, right? Because if we think about the power of the conversations that you see in bots, and you see in sort of these live chats, how can I discover an opportunity to say, wait, there's a question that really needs to be answered. There's something that's actually really cool to be building.
There's also side conversations that take place in said chatbot. So couldn't you also extract relationships there of like how these people
good question.
Absolutely, and understanding those contextual relationships, because that's where you start to move around and navigate. How is A connected to B? And wait a minute, who are all these other peripheral relationships that might be distantly related, but then an event happens over here, and suddenly things change. So an example might be my son and I might say we're distantly related, but then the thing changes and he says, so mom, Venmo me. And now we come a lot closer together, right? Because there's an event that happens, he spent all of his money, so there has to be a reason to reach out and say, so mom, can you help me out, right? And it's those kinds of things. And then we're starting to say, okay, so what's the trend? Oh, look at this. At the end of semester at uni, everybody needs more snacks. We see a spike in outreach to moms, and it's not just this mom, it's everybody's mom. And what I love to do, and again, kudos to the guys before for giving awesome examples, but it's to translate graphs from, so what's a graph database? I don't know, into, let me tell you a story on how you could use it
and leverage
and why you might want to use it.
All right, so
and that swaps it. Yeah.
Okay, so we've just level set what a graph database is here.
Yeah.
Awesome. What are the specific technologies you'd probably use to, I guess, overlay on a say the Twitch feed here?
Yeah. So I mean, we believe a lot in semantics, right? So we kind of come from RDF world where you're looking at a resource description framework, and the way that I like to think about it as a former English major is, you can break out sentences and understand those relationships. So if you think about graphs, imagine
like a linguistical tree.
Well, yeah, because what if I said, I'm mapping what this sentence is, I'm mapping the sentence in the context of this paragraph, I'm mapping this paragraph in the context of the chapter in the larger book, and then against a corpus of writers. And wait, how has that language changed? Where is she starting to make a first instance of this word or phrase, or we're starting to see it repeated? And that's where it can be powerful.
I mean, I think that's what like services like Comprehend and models like that do, is they analyze they break it down into a linguistical tree, and then they analyze meaning from the words.
So look, when I'm often now speaking to, I guess, a lot of C-levels, we often talk about, high value, low value.
Right.
Empowering your staff so they can focus on, high value pieces of work. So
Absolutely.
We have a team of wonderful moderators here today. How could something like a graph database, potentially help our moderators here to, I guess, get a bit of a better grasp on the conversation?
Absolutely. So imagine.
Do we still need them?
Yes, absolutely.
You're all fired.
Absolutely,
No,
you
only
need them
joking.
because there's a richness of context that comes in that those human moderators
Yeah.
can give that no algorithm can replace. So that first and foremost.
I think the internet has shown that.
Indeed, yes. So imagine that our moderators are able to say, I want to navigate across all of the conversations. I want to see where we're seeing bumps in. Here's interest. Wait, tell me more about that. So we can think about how do we queue up next speakers? If we've got amazing folks like Gabe, like Matt, like Nikki, and everyone else here, how do we say, actually, you know what? Can you scrub in and give this session? Because the live audience right now is really interested in seeing, so how do you muck around with Python a little bit? Like, can we think about what that looks like? You've actually got that opportunity. Instead of saying, I want to follow this set thing exactly, I can actually meet needs in real time. And like for a lot of clients, I want to be proactive instead of reactive. Can you help me predict and start to think about how to do this all differently? That's where it becomes
I also
powerful.
think it would be interesting with the moderation perspective of like, there are certain times when you apply a moderator to a chat and then you don't want that moderator working. Because if you analyze the conversation taking place, someone is asking for something. So let me give you a good example. We have moderators that block URLs from being posted in chat. But there are occasions when we actually want URLs posted in chat and somebody from, just viewing it wants to give me a link to something that is relevant to what I'm talking about. And I'm in chat and he's in chat and then he posts his link and he gets removed from chat due to the moderator. But if we were able to analyze the conversation happening and the connections and the sentiment or like the key phrases, like I'm asking for a URL, then we can unblock the moderator at that time.
That would be awesome. Like I know I've been in chat feeds before and I'm like, hey, I'll just post you a message to this article which may help you fix your problem.
Right.
And it doesn't get through. And you feel like, well,
you want to put a context flag, like I'm not just sitting here trying to spam someone, but this is where it's being helpful.
Exactly.
So how do you identify Shane is the user who's actually putting forth powerful content that matters? And again, that's where, can we analyze the context? That makes a difference. Graphs let you do
We have a good question here.
Go ahead.
School Crusher for Life asks, how do you decide on breaking out a property of a node into an edge relationship?
Well, I mean, that's a great question.
I'm glad you've got that, actually.
So I suppose the first answer is it depends on what we're
That's
looking at.
That's a great starting answer for every engineer. It depends.
But it really does,
No,
right?
I'm teasing you.
But so let's back up a second. You have to think about a graph as in terms of, I've got my connection. This is my verb, this is my subject, this is my object.
Yeah.
And I want to think about, okay, if the nodes are the nouns and the edges are the verbs, where and how are they separated? Because am I forcing a relationship to say, only think about it in this way, or am I actually saying, hold on a second, we need to cleave off and understand there's other nodes that need to be added, right?
Right,
and
there's a case where something could be a node and an edge.
Absolutely. And understanding that you're not fixed in that way, right? The challenge for some folks with relational is like, okay, you get like
Schema.
the weight of the queries is too heavy, and suddenly you're almost tracked to say, I can only think about this data in this way to query in this way, but if I want to do all these other things, the engineers are like, no. And we need to be able to change that.
All right, so we're almost out of time, but I think there's a really great question here from Roddendio asks, what's the advantage of a graph database over a traditional relational database?
So again, think about your use case. I would say the advantage is I can absolutely do discovery.
That's like I often always say that with my customers. Think about your use case.
Right. So it's, there's use cases where things are absolutely awesome and other things where a relational might be the best fit. But I would say it allows me to absolutely do discovery. It allows me not to be bounded to certain types of, I will only define all relationships in this particular kind of a way. And
It's like one to one a lot of the times when you have a relational database, because you're saying that this is related to this by a foreign key, this is related to another table by another foreign key. Whereas like in a graph database, you can have multiple connections coming off of, and you're not defined by the schema of the database. You can go outside of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, also keep in mind, AWS has amazing folks to help answer your questions. And again, I absolutely want to call out our amazing co-presenters from a previous session, because you've got Gabe, because you've got Matt. These are folks who are not only evangelists, but they're also deeply technical. So as you come in and say, well, walk me through this use case, they're there to help. And definitely one of the things that's really impressed us with Amazon is how much they keep pushing forward to say, well, we're building this, and well, guess what, guys? We're making sure that we're doing both property graphs and semantic graphs, because they listen to what are the needs of the community.
Like, 95% of our roadmap is based on customer feedback.
Absolutely.
So look, we're almost running out of time here. So I guess a bit of a call to action at the end. How would you summarize graph databases and how they can, I guess, improve the chat experience?
Maybe I'll give a shot at building what we're talking about.
I like that, and I will absolutely follow for that.
Boom.
Because that would be amazing. Definitely check out Neptune.
Follow me on Twitch. I'm going to put this on my schedule, something I can dabble into when I get back from the month of May. Getting married in 10 days, so.
Congratulations.
Yay, congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone.
That's all we have time for the moment. Tune back in. We'll be back shortly.